Hey, y'all, welcome back to the Late Night Vision Show. This is episode number 175. And I think, 175, that sounds like kind of an important number for podcast. It's not quite 200. It's not 250, but 175 sounds big. And for this show, it's going to be a big show. We've got an exciting optic to review. And I'm going to let Hans tell you about that here in just a second. But I'm going to go ahead and bring him in, Mr. Hansies, Texas, the co-host with the most, the other half of the Late Night Vision Show. What is going on?
So as all of the listeners and watchers out there probably know, we released a special breaking news edition of the Late Night Vision Show yesterday. And if you haven't watched it, you hadn't seen it, just go back on our YouTube channel and our iTunes or the latenightvision.show.com, wherever, go back and check out the most recent video before this one. And it is an interview with Jeff Murray and Chase Stevens from Cellmark. They represent Pulsar. They are Cellmark is the American distributor for Pulsar products. And that's where the news was broken, however you want to say it, broke about the Pulsar Trionyx. So we've got one here today. We're going to be reviewing it, talking about all of the specs. We've had this unit for quite a while now. We've been out testing it, getting familiar with it, getting some video. So we will be rolling some video as we go through the discussion. So if you're listening to the audio only version, you want to see what it looks like, you can check it out on our YouTube channel. And before we jump right into the official review, if you're interested in this thermal or any other night vision or thermal optic, you can find it at outdoorlegacygear.com, and you can call me or Jason at 877-350-1818 if you're looking to purchase something. So we would be glad to help you. Let's jump right into the review, Jason. I know we got specs. We're going to tell them exactly what this is because, again, the show that we announced yesterday, this is the first of its kind, Jason, the Trionics. Something that's never been done before. You can expect stuff like this from Pulsar. They're always looking to change, improve, just to stay out there and be the leader. And that's what they strive to be. Right. So let's talk a little bit about the specs and kind of describe what this thing is and what it does.
I'm over here adjusting my camera and everything else. While you're talking, I think some technical difficulties. We should be good. So I do want to say that I want to explain a little bit about what it is, and I know Hans and I will get into a little more about what this is, what it really means to you in the field and how that it works. But the Trionics, the tri gives you the hint that there is three things going on here, and we're just doing this explanation for the people who didn't see the big announcement that we aired yesterday, again, with the Pulsar guys. So the Trionics means three things. One, it is a thermal unit, and it's got a thermal sensor in it. Two, it has a digital night vision sensor in it. And three is it overlays and combines both of those things at one time, making it the Trionics. Now, to be clear, there may be, I think the military is maybe doing some stuff like this. There may be some other companies that have done something similar. I don't know of anyone who has done this in the United States for hunters. If it's out there, we missed it. So this is a really big deal. It is new technology. It's cutting edge, and I think it's a hint of where things will be going in the future. And again, we'll be discussing that more in the show.
This is one of those things that I know that I've mentioned in the past. People have mentioned to me, and they're like, wouldn't it be cool to have, this three different basically optics into one? And we weren't trying to describe exactly what this is, but basically somewhat of having the thermal night vision in one optic. And that's essentially what they've done here. And I don't know what gave them the motivation to do it. I'm glad they did, but I swear they just, the engineers are like, okay, what are we going to do now that nobody's been able to do.
I would like to see their playbook for 3 years from now.
Exactly.
Because these guys don't think this up yesterday. I mean, they're looking so far down the road. So it's exciting times for thermal, and we're going to get right into it. I know that we're dragging out. Hans said we're going to give you the specs, but I wanted to explain what this is before we get into it, because there's some guys that are like, Trionics, never heard of it. Explain what do you give me the specs on? So these are binoculars. Now that is an important point. That means that you have a single lens with 2 eyepieces. Now that's the last time I'm probably going to call them a binocular, because it's just everybody refers to them as a binocular because that's what they look like. That's the term that we all use. A binocular actually means 2 lenses with 2 eyepieces. 2 eyepieces, 1 lens on these. But again, they look like, and for what we're doing, they function like a binocular. So that's what they look like. Again, all 3 thermal, digital, and a thermal digital overlay in these. It is called the Trionics, and they are going to sell for $29,99.97 here in the U.S. So $299, $3,000. Very good price for what you're going to be getting here. And let's go over these specs real quick. It does have the Pulsar XQ sensor in it. That means it's got a 384 by 288 17 micron thermal sensor in it. It is a 50 hertz refresh rate. The magnification on the thermal side is a 2.5 power base magnification with digital zoom going up to 10 power. It has a field of view on the thermal side of 65 foot horizontally at 100 yards. An important factor here is that the thermal lens is a fixed focus. You cannot focus the lens. We'll get into that later and explain exactly what that means for guys who really aren't sure why that matters, but we'll talk about that fixed focus. They've got 8 color palettes. It does have a removable rechargeable battery. This is a new battery for Pulsar. The old style batteries that they've used before would not fit the way they needed them to, so they had to come up with a new battery. This is a TPS7. And again, that's Tango Papa Sierra 7 TPS. Note that because you'll probably be wanting to pick some of those up later if you get one of these units. Then when we move down to the night vision and the fusion mode or the overlay mode, you're looking at a 3.5 power base magnification when you move to that digital mode. It goes up to 14 power digital zoom. It is a 1280 by 720 digital imaging sensor. It does have a focusable objective lens for the digital side of it. You got a field of view of 48 foot at 100 yards on the digital side. You have a built-in IR illuminator with 3 IR brightness levels. And again, we'll talk about this more, but this sensor is super sensitive and brings in a ton of ambient light. The unit also does include video recording. I don't believe there's audio on it. If there is, we didn't see it, but there is video recording. Yeah, we didn't hear it.
We couldn't find it in the specs. Yeah, so
that's exactly right. And we've been dealing with pre-release units, so sometimes things change a little bit, but we didn't see any audio. But video recording. Also, there is it is compatible with the Stream Vision app too, or Stream Vision 2, the smartphone app for streaming. It's got about a 6-hour run time, and I'm trying to see. Oh, it is an IPX7 rating. I mean, you can fully submerge it for 30 minutes, so fully waterproof. Trying to think. Oh, one here. It's about 27 ounces, with the battery, the whole setup. So that's the weight on it. I don't think I left off anything else. AMOLED display. So, cold temperature rating, not an issue. If I left off something, let me know, Hans.
That's all the specs, huh? That's
all I got. I got a bunch of scrabble all over my page. 3, I think this is it.
It seems like with an optic that has basically 3 different optics in it, it should be, or guess it's technically 2 and overlay 1, but it should seem like there'd be 2 pages of specs. But we we got the specs from the man himself, so we really confident with what we got. So we're going to go talk about the functionality of this real quick and go through. As you can see, the front, it's got the thermal lens, the IR illuminator light is built into it, as well as the night vision lens. So as Jason said, this is a thermal binocular and also a night vision binocular, and then you have the fusion, which is one of the biggest complaints that people have about thermal is depth perception. So really, the fusion is basically fusioning or combining thermal and night vision. Yeah, and it's overlaying the thermal, so you still see heat signatures from the animal or anything relatively hot, but you still get your depth perception. Is not affected as bad because it has the night vision. You're using traditional digital night vision mode. So, we're running video so you can understand exactly what we're talking about. I know it's might be a little bit complicated to understand, but the videos really explain it well. So, going through, you've got your 2 viewfinder screens, your eyepieces here. These do move in or out to adjust to your correct eye, how narrow your eyes are or how wide, so you can adjust that. You've got your focus knob for the night vision right here. So your objective focus is right here on the very front. Your buttons here. So I'm going to start with the left button. This is a short press of this will nuke the screen. A long press, this is your power button. So long press turns the unit on and off. Short press nukes it. The forward button here, short press switches it from different operating modes. So that's a short press will take it from thermal to night vision to fusion. A long press will increase the IR illuminator brightness. So long press brightness, short press operating mode. The right button, short press will start either the video going, start recording, or it will capture a picture, and a long press will change it from picture mode to video mode. The back button here changes the short press changes the magnification level, long press changes color mode, and the middle button here is the menu button. So short press will allow you to make some quick changes like contrast and brightness, and a long press will get you into your main menu mode. So the full menu there, where you can do everything from turn on the image boost detail to change the date and time, anything you need to do as far as advanced menu settings. Got a nice fancy flip up cover and a neck strap. So
I want to say one thing. I know why we generally don't go over what all the buttons do and how the functions work on this format. I mean, I know there's some other formats of reviews where that works well. I was just sitting there listening to you. And I was completely lost, and I've used this unit a lot. And it's not your fault, but it's just the way long press here, short press this button. That is very confusing. Trust me, folks, when you get it in your hands, it's very easy to use.
Yeah, exactly right.
In 5 minutes. It sounds a lot harder.
I want to show the video compartment, or the battery compartment too, with that little switch up. Battery slips right in and out. Yeah, the whole long press. We had a comment on the video last week, and they're like,
I was thinking about it. Yeah,
you didn't even tell us what the buttons did. So I'm trying to accommodate at some point. But the biggest,
it's too hard to explain in this format.
One of the biggest, we won't go too far into it. One of the biggest things that people call about when they get their optic and how to work it is, what's a short press and what's a long press, or that they don't even know what that means. So, having 5 buttons on this unit and so many different functions, you've got to be able to make one button do 2 different things to be able to do everything. So short press, long press.
But it is not hard.
Not hard.
It is
not hard at all. It is not. If you can turn your cell phone on and answer a call, then you can run one of these optics.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, we're going to go into ID ranges, and we're going to start getting into the meat and potatoes of what this optic can do and how it can perform, and most importantly, who is this important for, or who would this work for? Because I don't think this is something that's everybody's going to have to drop what they've got and run out and get it, because it is the newest technology, and nobody else has done anything like this. I think this serves a specific purpose. But before we get into that, we're going to talk about the ID ranges. I'm going to say, with this being a 2.5 power base magnification thermal unit, 3.5 power night vision, I would say 200 yards was what I would say is the ID range on the thermal side. Just using it
positive ID.
Positive ID range,
Positive ID.
200 yards. I'm going to say the night vision mode 2 is going to be fairly close. With the IRR light that's built into it, I'm going to say both the positive ID range is going to be about 200 yards. That's what I'm going to say conservatively. I don't think it's something that you're going to get and expect to be able to ID at 400 or 500 yards. It's just not going to happen. And it's not that unit. It serves a purpose for something else, but not that, I would say.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. I think that a lot of times people when they're new to this, they're really confused in the difference in ID range and detection range. Mm-hmm. And when we say ID range, we're talking about 100% pull the trigger. Now, this is a binocular, and it's a handheld spotting unit. It's not weapons mountable, so you're not pulling the trigger with it. But when we say ID, that's what we mean. Like, yes, I could put the rifle up and shoot it. That is an ID. Detection is going to be a very long ways, especially with the thermal. Mm-hmm. Looking out there at several hundred yards and saying that there is something there, that's what thermal does. It's very, very good at that. This unit does that just like you would expect. I think that there's going to be many times in good conditions where you're looking at, a hog or a coyote at, 250, 300, maybe 350 yards. And maybe, for instance, I always tell people, you may not be able to ID a coyote with this particular optic mm-hmm. at some certain range, but if you're running a coyote call and you got what looks like a dog running to you, it's probably a coyote. Yeah. But that's not a positive ID.
Right.
You're in this intermediate state of, I've more than detected it. I'm about 90% sure it's, I know what this animal is, but until it gets up into this, closer into this, 225 range, yeah. I think that's really where you're going to be able to positively ID. So I agree with everything. I just wanted to let people know that, it doesn't mean this thing is useless over 200 yards. It's right. just not going to be what you're IDing out there at those super long ranges. Do you want to say something else?
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. Okay. Mannerisms of an animal are not a positive ID. A mannerism,
negative.
Yeah, mannerisms and knowing how a hog moves and a coyote moves will. And you see something 500 yards away, and you see right. Something that looks big, almost as big as a cow, but it's moving around a lot more than a cow. Mm-hmm. Well, there's a good chance it might be a hog. But mannerisms just gives you the positive affirmation that, yeah, I need to investigate this more and maybe move a little bit closer. But, I really want to talk about, too, the attractive features of this scope, things that are going to make you consider buying this or things that are going to be able to, make your ears perk up a little bit. So, and I'll let you, Jason, we can both kind of.
I think this is hard because it's. I want to get into like what the real world uses are, and we're kind of going to do that. I know in a minute.
I think what people want to do though is they see this and they want to compare it to the Accolade, and that's what. Oh yeah, when you see pictures of this, it kind of looks similar. It's a binocular looking thing, similar to the Accolade. So the first thing right off the bat is, okay, how does it perform up against an Accolade? So we'll talk a little bit about that later. But the things that I like about this, and out using it as much as I did, and being able to to detect an animal. So coyotes mainly running around, especially in some tall grass, being able to spot that coyote running through tall grass, and then switch it over to night vision to positively ID if it's a coyote or a dog. That was a huge advantage, being able to use this out at night. And depending on what you want to do, there's a lot of people out there that have uses for this that would be, that call up and say, hey, I want a coyote hunt, but I don't want to use thermal because I'm afraid I might shoot the neighbor's dog. And so, they want to make sure that they can get a very positive ID. And night vision does give you that, no matter what you say, night vision does give you that positive ID that thermal just can't do.
Sure. I think that, and that's some more stuff I know we keep saying we're going to get into, but we are here in a minute. I think features of this thing that I do like for certain situations. I think that the two eyepieces are a negative for some people. I think they're a big positive for others. I think if you're sitting there glassing for a long time, if you're stationary, a lot of people get tired of only one eye being able, to see what's going on. They're used to using binoculars, and so they want both eyes. I think if you're sitting in a stand, again, if you're, set up on tripods and you're just standing there, being able to use both eyes is nice. I like the battery design. Yeah. Again, we're talking about a longer lasting, removable, rechargeable battery. Another thing that we appreciate, it's not an internal battery. It's not CR123As. It is a rechargeable battery. I know there's a million ways that this can go. Some guys say, yeah, but it's a battery that I've got to buy. If I want a spare, I got to buy their battery. That's true, but it lasts a long time. The alternative is you can get CR123As at Walmart and, shove them in there and every couple hours change them and throw them away. And before long, you could have bought a rechargeable. So it's just, there's a million different ways. Yeah. I like the battery options because I know that I can have a spare battery in my bag or my pack and, I'm going to have several hours of more battery life there with me. So I like that. I think that the ergonomics, the ease of use of it, like I said, we were joking there, Hans explaining long press, short press. That all sounds complicated. It's not. When you start using it, the buttons on the top, they're very ergonomic. They are ambidextrous. So if you're left-handed or right-handed, it doesn't matter which hand you're more comfortable using those with. You're going to be able to feel those buttons where, even with gloves on, forward, back, left, right, you're going to know where those are. I really like it. I mean, I think it is based off that Accolade style design, but I think it's a very good design.
Yeah, you're talking about spotting. I still got the tripod mount on the bottom of this unit where I was able to run it off a tripod. If you don't want to hold it up, being able to mount it in there and scan with it without holding it too makes it really nice to operate with. But so
I want to. Go ahead. Go ahead if you had something you want to say. I was going to say, I really want to get into, because I feel like probably in retrospect, we should have moved this back forward and explained this earlier on. I really want to talk about what this unit is good for, who it's good for, and then I think we can talk a little bit more about the functionality and how it's actually really going to perform for you out in the field. But I want to list off some things that I think this unit is good for. And I want to be clear up front. This is not a binocular, a thermal, a night vision, Trionics, whatever you want to call the thing. It's not for everybody, okay? It doesn't replace other things. Right. It is something new, all right? And I guess I'll go ahead and say this. Hans mentioned the Accolade, and I did too. This is not an Accolade replacement. Right. The image quality on an Accolade is, the current Accolade is the XP50, the Accolade 2 XP50 LRF Pro. I mean, it is. There's so many models of them now. It's 640 high resolution. It's focusable. I mean, it's nearly $6,000. It's a totally different unit than this. Image quality wise, what you're getting there, again, you're not getting the digital night vision option, but you are getting much, much better thermal image quality. I would say the same thing with a basic, single eyepiece handheld thermal monocular. What you can get in this $3,000 range, like a Helion 2 XQ38, same price as this unit. It's going to have a better image quality. It's going to have a focusable lens. It doesn't have two eyepieces. Again, it doesn't have this digital option. It doesn't have this overlay. So it depends on what you're needing or wanting. And so who I think this unit is good for is a certain group of people. And I'm going to say people because they're not all going to be hunters. Right. I think if you're law enforcement, security, marine boating usage, search and rescue, there's a lot of things here where this could be used, where someone is in that security type mindset, and maybe this is even personal security for yourself or your farm or property. Hey, I've spotted there's somebody. Okay, a human identification is going to be much easier than an animal. I mean, a human standing up, there's nothing else in nature that looks like a human walking around out there. So
I had a prison.
I spotted something.
I had a prison guard. He worked at a prison. He called and said, I need a thermal and I need a night vision optic. And he said, I need a thermal to see if something's out there in the yard that's not supposed to be there. And then I need a night vision to tell if it's an inmate or one of our guards.
Wow.
And so, in the back of my mind, I'm like, man, this is perfect for somebody like that, law enforcement, needing to detect and then positively ID. And, something like that, it fits right into this category. But again, it's something very, very specialized, a very specialized use.
But moving this into hunters, where I see it being used is Hans already mentioned the biggest one. And it's one we hear all the time from guys that are just coyote hunters normally. Mm-hmm. And it's, hey, I've got permission to hunt this farm. And, the very last thing I ever want to do is shoot the farmer's dog. Yeah. I am going to be in, besides just losing the place to hunt, I'm going to be in huge trouble and the word's going to spread. I may lose other places. I don't want to shoot the farmer's dog. And so again, that's where thermals, sometimes guys get really nervous of like, I can look out there, I can see that's a dog, but is it a coyote or is it a domestic dog? And sometimes that could be a little difficult. This is the perfect solution to that in one single handheld unit, like Hans already described. Boom, there's something coming in. I see it. I'm on the thermal. He gets in there inside that range. Boom, flip over. Oh my gosh, that's a lab. It's got a collar and a tag, Yeah. So that's what you're going to be able to do there. I think there's two other big ones for me, and that's going to be for deer hunters. And for guys who are, it's kind of one group here, but guys who are managing, big, I don't want to say deer ranches. I don't necessarily mean high fences, but managed hunting clubs and that sort of thing where you are out there trying to manage your deer. And the reason being is there's a whole lot of times. I talked to a buddy of mine and I couldn't tell him about this. Now I can go to him and tell him, but he was saying, man, he said, used to, we did all these spotlight surveys. He said, now we flip on spotlights, all the deer run off. He said, it's very, very difficult. Not like it used to be. The deer just run. He's like, he's got a thermal that he got from me. He said, I'd love to use thermal. He said, but we would really like to be able to tell the difference in a buck and a doe. And he said, and once we get, the bucks are out of velvet, I just can't see those horns. And he said, so we don't know. We're just seeing, it's just a deer count, but it's not bucks versus does. And so something like this, problem solved. There you go. It's scan. Okay, look, there's an animal. Boom, flip it on. Now I can see if that's a buck or a doe. And then I think just general hunting, I know for myself, I'm always out with thermal all the time, all winter, during deer season, at night, hunting hogs and coyotes. And so many times I will see deer and I'll see bucks. Okay. And I can tell that by their body. Mm-hmm. You can look at them out there in a group. There is no question that animal weighs 30 pounds more. It's got his head held up. He looks like a ninth grade boy walking down the hall. You can just tell that's got to be a buck, but I can't see anything on top of his head. Right. This right here, this is one of the things I enjoyed most about using this, even during the summer, is just flipping that thing over and looking at those bucks and seeing exactly what that rack looked like. And I think, obviously, if you're a deer hunter, you're already thinking of all the scenarios where this would be cool. Even, going into the stand before daylight and, yes, not now, which you could do with thermal anyway, but you could look, hey, there's something at the corn feeder. Now you can say, oh my goodness, it is that big buck. Or, hey, that's nothing but a yearling doe. Let's get, I'm going to run her off. I got to get on the deer stand. So a lot of opportunities, I think, for deer and coyote hunters here.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. If you want to hear, basically this is a list of things that Jason and I thought of, and also the guys from Cellmark, gave us some good ideas on as far as other uses for this for law enforcement and marine and that type of thing. But, that's instantly when we found out what this unit was and what it was, the specifics on it, that's, the deer management, coyote hunting were the main things that we thought of right away. Now, before we round out and before we end the show pretty soon, let's talk about some things that you'd like to see different about this unit. Maybe if they're coming out down the road, if they're improving it, if they're coming out with something completely different, what would we like to see? And I'm going to start out. I would love to see this in a rifle scope. I would love to be able to have a thermal scope that could switch over to night vision so you could detect in thermal and maybe take a shot in night vision. That's what I would love to see improved and changed is later on down the road, is being able to do that. But I would think for this unit specifically, I would think, I think the range, the 200-yard ID range on both night vision and thermal, I think holds it back a little bit. I would love to see that range extended even further. What about you? What do you say?
Yeah, I think that I would like to obviously see a focusable objective lens on the thermal side of things.
Right.
I'm going to tell you something that this is my opinion. You can take it for what it's worth. I think the guys who buy these, I think a lot of people are going to be of the same opinion. The fusion mode or the overlay where you have the digital and the thermal at the same time, well, that sounds really cool. I hate to say this because this is kind of the amazing part, but I don't really care about it. Yeah. It didn't really, it's cool and it was fun to play with, but I just found myself repeatedly switching from thermal to digital night vision, thermal to night vision, thermal back and forth. I didn't care anything about the overlay. It didn't, again, as neat as it is. And when I first got it, I played with it a lot in that mode, but I'm not trying to, sell this unit as because it will overlay. I think it is a fun feature, but I don't think the real usefulness comes from that specific feature.
Yeah,
so
that's like the main.
Like
the main trick. That's like saying that when the guy makes the rabbit disappear in the hat. Well, I didn't like that part, but I liked everything leading up to it.
No, we don't have anything else that has thermal.
No, I will say
combined.
Exactly.
I like those two
the
things.
Fact that they did that means that they're innovating and making things better. But what I will say and brag about is that the night vision image on this unit is spectacular. It's very
outstanding.
It's one of the best that we've seen as far as the quality of the picture image through a night vision unit. It is phenomenal. And then that's why, I would mention I would love to see more extended range with this. And it's really has to do with the power of the IR light. But
I'm going to say something about that IR light in this image. This is something that I know is going to happen because Pulsar is getting their their night vision sensors very, very sensitive. They are doing amazing at picking up ambient light, starlight, moonlight. You got a barn light over there 300-400 yards. They're doing a fantastic job of that. On a really bright night, you might not even use the IR illuminator. The only negative with this is if you're out there in the field with other people and somebody has got a scope with a really bright IR light, it's likely to overpower this optic. It does not need that super bright light. And if you've got your own light on the Trionics and then somebody else is waving theirs around, it could overpower it because I say overpower, I just mean like kind of white it out, like too much light. It's super, super sensitive. But You know, I think, kind of like what we'd like to see. I think we're talking about the future. I want to talk about real quick here, maybe just as kind of my wrap on it. I think the unit, and one thing I also did mention is farmers, is guys running cattle. I think there's a benefit there of, hey, I'm out here, cows are calving, riding around on the side by side or in the truck. Where are these cows at? Yeah, thermal's great for that. Mm-hmm. But now it's, hey, wait a minute, I got a cow and looks like a calf. Well, until you get over there and get up to them, or you flip on a spotlight, you can't really tell exactly. You flip this on, you're going to be able to see, hey, is that a 2-week-old calf, or is that newborn still laying there? Or that's where I think another way this is going to be helpful, another person. But in theory, or not in theory, I'm sorry, in closing, I should say, I think this is a really cool unit. It's got some real world hunting usage. There's some guys that it is perfect for. I think there's a lot of guys that it is not going to be perfect for. I think you've got to listen to this closely, see the videos that we've put up. Give us a call if you want to know some more specifics about it, of what it's really good for and what it's not. I don't think if you own a high-end thermal, monocular like an Accolade or a Helion XP50, or maybe even an XQ38 Helion, I don't think you're going to go throw that thing in the trash to buy this.
Right.
This is a different type of tool, in my opinion, and I think it could be used right alongside some of those optics for these certain conditions that we're talking about. I really do think that the exciting thing to me, as Hans already really touched on this early, is that it is the innovation. People are always asking about what is next for thermal. What is it going to be? We've got 320, 384 scopes, 640s. We got video recording, long battery life. Like, what's the next thing? Everybody's kind of looking. And I think this is the beginning of the next thing. And I don't know exactly what that means. I don't think it just means that this unit is going to get better over time, which I think is true. But again, there's probably things that we haven't even thought of, that some of these engineers and stuff are already over there, on whiteboards drawing stuff out. So it excites me that Pulsar is doing it. It excites me that it's going to be available to us. And look, this is a pretty affordable price. I know $3,000 is not, it's not chump change, but this thing didn't come out at $6,000 or $7,000 either. So that's exciting to me to see what we could have going forward. Like Hans said, I don't know, is it going to be a scope? Is it just going to be a smaller one of the? I don't know. I have no clue, but I think the sky's the limit.
Fingers crossed for a scope. So if you're interested in purchasing this optic or any other night vision or thermal scope, or monocular, or whatever it may be, you can hop onto the website, outdoorlegacygear.com, or you can call and talk to me, 877-350-1818. Talk to me directly, answer your questions about the purchasing process and what might be right for you. Love to talk to you.
Me?
No, we're not going to talk to you. You can talk to you too.
I'm teasing. No.
I'm going to say it again, 877-350-1818. Talk to somebody that knows these optics, and that's what the main thing is. And there's a lot of people out there that say, I wish I could go down the road and pick one of these up and look through it. And unfortunately, that's not the case. But the next best thing to do is talk with people that use these optics, not just use a thermal scope and use the same thermal scope over and over, but you've got to be able to know and have experience with comparing a certain scope versus other scopes that are on the market. So again, make sure you speak with somebody that knows. And we appreciate all of you out there watching and listening, all the customers that have called in and ordered optics from us. We really, really appreciate it. If you are looking for Jason, if you're looking for Outdoor Legacy on social media, you can do it on Facebook, on Instagram, and also on YouTube, Outdoor Legacy. You can find me on YouTube at Hans ETX, and you can also find me on Instagram at the same Hans ETX. ETX stands for East Texas, so Hans ETX. And then if you're looking for any of our past episodes, the best way to do it, thelatenightVisionShow.com. It's got a full, you can go through and find every past episode that we've ever made, all 174 prior. Well, there's probably more because we've had some breaking news episodes in there that haven't had numbers, but a few more. But we are trucking along, man, putting out these shows once a week, every Thursday, so we can bring you all the breaking news, just like the Trionics. There will be more to come. We don't have any specifics, but we know the industry's hot right now, and there's stuff coming out, seems like, all the time. And that's why we're still doing reviews in late August, August, early September, is because we've had so much stuff come out lately. But we appreciate it.
Is true. Yeah. And folks, just keep it tuned to the Late Night Vision Show on YouTube or on your favorite podcast app, because we do our best to bring you the breaking news. We appreciate the manufacturers that come to us and want to work with us and want to bring us these optics to let us, help put them out there and announce them and test them and let us review them honestly. And that's what we want to do. Right. We try to tell you what we like, what we don't like, what we would like to see in the future. And we just really hope that it helps you. And like I said, sometimes these optics review aren't for everybody. And we want people to know that. We don't ever want you to buy something and regret it later. So we want to make sure you get the optic that works best for your exact scenario, and everybody's scenario is different. And so that's why we do what we do on this show and all the reviews. We appreciate y'all that come back here every week or every time you see something that piques your interest, and we hope that we will see y'all again next week. But between now and then, from both Hans and I, y'all stay safe in the fields and keep making those bacon pancakes.